Hello, everybody. How are you on this, well, a little bit chilly, furry Friday? I figure because it got so melty and so slushy out there, and now it's so cold that if you need ice melt, now is a good time. My sidewalks are sheer ice. So we've got the pet-friendly ice melt so that I don't have to worry about the monkey walking through the icy slush when the ice melt starts to make the ice melt. Anyways, you guys know what ice melt is. So if you need it, we've got it. Make sure you get some. Hello, Tony. Hello, I can't see everybody who's watching. Hello, everybody. I will say hi as you come on. We are talking about Titer tests today, you guys. Not tiger. Lots of people say tiger. No, Titer tests. So Titer tests. And the reason that we want to talk about Titer tests, this is something that I do with Zaner. In fact, I will tell you a quick story about the very first time that I took Zaner for vaccinations. And I could tell, as you know, I found Zaner when he was almost 2 years old. And I also found his owners and said, you know, it's too late now, I've fallen in love, how much do you want? And she gave him to me. But I had asked her, has he had his vaccines? And she said, oh, absolutely. Well, I knew when I took him into the vet, the very first time I ever took him into the vet, Zaner had never been to a vet before because he strutted on in there like he owned the place. He could care less that we were at a vet. Now he knows when we go to a vet, now he knows, and he's not keen about it, but he does it. And we still go every year, of course. But the very first time that I got Zaner vaccinated, he seemed to be fine. Well, he was completely fine at the vet. He could care less. But about 6 hours later, 6 hours after he was vaccinated, I had a completely different dog on my hands. He was hiding in the closet, he was hiding in the pantry, he was hiding in my gym bag. He did not want to be touched. If you even came within about 6 feet of him, he would growl at you because he was in pain. And this lasted, well, after 24 hours, I shouldn't even say that. When it started, I called the vet and they said, nothing to worry about. That's just the side effects of vaccines. And 24 hours later, when he was still kind of in the same state and kind of lethargic and not wanting anything to do with anybody, I called back again and they said, it's fine. It's just, you know, he's probably just like when you get a needle, it hurts. And so he's probably just in a little bit of pain. But if you still see these symptoms in another 2 or 3 days, then give us a call back. So that was the response. So of course I became very leery of giving him needles. I also found out that his initial vaccination, they used a needle that they would use on like a 100-pound dog, and he's a 5-pounder, right? So probably too big of a needle. But anyways, he did have an adverse effect to the vaccine, which I didn't know enough then. I did not know about Titer tests. And hi Brian, hi Lee, hi Keith. I didn't know enough about titers, or pardon me, I didn't know enough about vaccines then, and I certainly didn't know about titers. So, and with my big dogs, every year I went and I got the vaccines and I just didn't question it. Hello, Ms. Limer. I didn't question vaccines as many pet parents don't. But here's an interesting fact about vaccines. The guys, hi Lillian, the guys who actually determined that vaccines must be given once a year, the people that came up with that are the vaccine manufacturers. It wasn't a group of certified veterinarians. It wasn't a group of dog doctors. It was the guys who make the vaccines. They're the guys that said, these should be given every year. Gotta put the monster down. He's too heavy. And the other thing about vaccines, as we know, there's a very, very, very high markup on vaccines. There is some speculation that if animals weren't getting vaccinated every year, a veterinary clinic's revenues could drop up to 30%. So there's a high markup on vaccines because the cost is low, but the price that we pay for a very short appointment is high, as you know. And before we really get into this, you guys, I want to make very, very clear, I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am not opposed to vaccines. I am opposed to over-vaccinating. And that's what a titer is all about, okay? So let me make, whoops. Now I'm gonna just drop all the things, you guys. I want to use an analogy. For those who may not be familiar with titers or maybe have never heard of them before, I want to do an analogy. So here's my picture of a car. Can anybody out there, I see Colleen and Stan, I feel like Romper Room, Lillian, Jen, can anybody tell me how much gas is in this car? There's Susan joining us. Does anybody know? Throw it out there. Do you think it's empty? Do you think it's half? Do you think it's full? How much gas do you think is in this car? Am I asking a ridiculous question? I kind of am. Because how do we know? Jennifer says no. How much gas is in this car? No. She says no. Okay. 50 liters, she says. Good guess, Jen. Good guess. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Patrick. And Lillian says no. Okay, so we can't tell how much gas is in this car, right? We can't tell just by looking at it. So this car could be completely empty. This car could be completely full. We don't know. So if we go to put gas into the tank and it's already full, are we doing anything beneficial for the car? Nope. We're probably just hurting the environment because now gas is spilling everywhere. Titer tests, upside down. Titer tests are our gas gauge for our animals because the same is true for our animals. When I look at Zaner, I cannot tell just by looking at him if he has immunity to the diseases that we would regularly vaccinate for. He doesn't have a gas gauge, but that's what a titer test is, okay? So I cannot tell by looking at the car how much gas it is. That's why I have a gas gauge. And I cannot tell by looking at Zaner how much immunity he has to different diseases that we regularly vaccinate for. So a titer will tell me that because essentially a titer test is testing the antibodies in the blood. And Jen says that makes sense. Good. I was really hoping because I kept thinking like cell phone, car, but really a car. We can't tell by looking at the car how much gas it has. And that's what the gas gauge is for. That's what our titer test is. So titer test tests the antibodies in the blood to say whether or not the animal is immune or not to the diseases that we regularly vaccinate for, okay? So it's non-invasive, it is just a blood draw, it's not harmful because we're not putting anything into the animal. We're simply taking a small section of blood, a small sample of blood, and then we run tests in a laboratory. Titer tests are either ran through your local veterinarian or sometimes if they don't do it in-house, they send it out to an external lab. You will probably know very quickly if you ask your vet, do you do titer tests and how much? If they come back with a number in the hundreds of dollars, $200, $300, $400, chances are very good then that your vet is sending that information. They're sending the blood draw to an external lab because when they do it in-house, it's a quick test and it's not that expensive. It's going to be less than $100 for sure, okay? So a titer test gives us the gas gauge. It gives, why do I keep doing it upside down? A titer test gives us the gas gauge. And if it tells us that there's already gas in the tank, if there's already immunity in the animal, that tells us we don't need to vaccinate, okay? So I do not vaccinate with Zaner anymore. I titer test. We still go to the doctor every year. We still go for our annual appointment. I still want everything else checked. I want his ears checked, his eyes checked, his teeth checked, all the things. I want everything still checked. But I'm not going to get him vaccinated. I go to get him titer tests. So they titer test. So they draw a little bit of blood, they do the test, then they send me an email and they say, he's immune, he doesn't need vaccines, okay? Here's an interesting fact about vaccines. When animals are vaccinated at approximately 4 months of age, so normally they should get their first, we do want to vaccinate puppies and kitties when they're babies because we want to give their immune system a fighting chance to build up naturally so that they can then have natural immunity to the diseases that are out there that affect our dogs. Very good to know. Thank you. Awesome, Jen. And hello, Michelle and Tanya and Lori. I missed a couple folks. Hi, everybody. We're talking about titers today. So we go, we do our annual, we get everything checked, we do the titer test, we find out he's immune. Now, if the test came back that Zaner did not have the immunity, that his gas gauge was empty, then I have to look at vaccinating. But because he is a healthy, grown adult, chances are good I will never have to vaccinate him again in his life because that's what I was talking about. So when we have puppies and kitties that are very young, typically they get their first vaccine around 8 to 10 weeks. Their next booster comes around 4 months of age, okay? So around 12 to 16 weeks. Immediately after that, after they've been vaccinated at that 4 months of age, then we should be titering because their natural immunity will start to kick in. And now we know that we've got a full tank. If we've got a full tank, we don't want to put more gas in there. Here's the whole difference. There's immunization and vaccination. They are not the same things, but we always hear about, it's immunization time, come get immunized. Immunization happens when we get vaccinated, okay? They're not the same thing. When we are already immune and we continue to vaccinate, we are just over vaccinating. It could happen with us, it could happen with them. So my question would be, when was the last time you had a measles vaccine? That's the same kind of thing for them as parvo, hepatitis, distemper. We get vaccinated for measles when we're very young and it lasts a lifetime. We don't have to continually go back. Things like the doggy flu or Bordetella, those are more bacterial infections. I would never vaccinate Zane for Bordetella, ever. Bordetella is essentially kennel cough. That's a cold. How many times have you ever been vaccinated for a cold? We don't get vaccinated for colds. We do get vaccinated for the flu, we get vaccinated for COVID, and certainly this is not a big vaccine talk about that, you guys, but those are different, those are bacterial things. Lori says this is so informative. Awesome, Lori, I hope that it helps. I think about, I lost my German Shepherds when they were 12, and that's young. But I vaccinated every year. I made every mistake I possibly could have made. And so this is the reason that we share the type of information that we do with you guys, is because we have made these mistakes and we don't want others to make this mistake. So now I know so much more with Zaner, and my German Shepherds taught me a lot that I just didn't realize at the time, but I know now, and I learn every day with Zaner too. So with our titers, I've got some notes here, you guys, because I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. And so we've talked about that. Okay, we've done that. Oh, you guys, I've talked about that. And I've talked about that. Good. I am talking about everything that I put down. So that's a good thing, you guys. Here's a very disturbing fact, but it is known in the veterinary community. specifically with cats, there were tumors, okay? So there are side effects of over-vaccinating. What it's called is vaccinosis, okay? So vaccinosis has, in fact, I'm gonna show you guys. This is gonna be backwards for you guys, but I'm just gonna show you how many different side effects there are to vaccines and over-vaccinating. So they're kind of common, which Zaner would have had common symptoms. He had lethargy, soreness, lack of appetite, stiffness. He was very reserved and recluse. Then they go to serious, and that can be behavioral changes, weight loss, lameness, respiratory disease, allergic, facial swelling, hives. Those are more serious side effects of a vaccine. Severe can be sarcomas, which are tumors, cancerous tumors at the site of injection, autoimmune arthritis, polyarthritis, autoimmune like a bunch of words I can't even say, you guys. Immune mediated, here we go, a big one. Thrombocytopenia, I'm not even gonna try to say that. I don't know what kind of disease that is. Seizures, abortion, death. Like, these are different side effects that we can see from vaccinations or over vaccinating. It is upside down. You know what, Lillian? Actually, it's probably backwards because I didn't type this one. I didn't print this one out backwards so that you guys could see it frontwards. But I just wanted to show you, like, literally how many different side effects can occur from vaccinating and over vaccinating. It's crazy. But one of them is the sarcomas, the tumorous cancer at the site of injection. So the veterinary clinic, the traditional kind of mainstream veterinary, not the more integrative holistic veterinarians, but the mainstream veterinary clinics figured this out that, a lot of cats are getting these sarcomas at the site of injection. Maybe we should move the injection down further through their body. So what they started doing is they started actually giving the injections for cats in their hindquarters, as far down the back of their leg as they could. The reason they did this is because they figured if the animal gets cancer, they could amputate the leg and the animal could still live. That is so heartbreaking for me, and it's so disturbing that the medical community for our animals realized that vaccines were the cause of these sarcomas, these cancerous tumors. And instead of looking at the cause, the vaccine, they went, just move the injection site. That was in the 90s, you guys. That was in the 90s. Shortly after that, there even was some discussion to come back and say, well, maybe we should start giving the vaccine injections in the cat's tail so that they're not as disformed if we have to remove the tail because cancer is caused at the site of injection. That's not right. That's not right. What integrative veterinarians are saying is, why don't we look at why are we vaccinating every single year? Why are we not seeing if the gas tank is full? Why are we not seeing if the immunity already exists to what we're trying to vaccinate for? So the integrative veterinarians of the world, the more holistic veterinarians, they are the guys that are leading the way with titer tests. So they want to see, does this animal require any more vaccinations? Or are the titers good? A lot of vets in the States, and even traditional vets in the States, they usually recommend that you titer every 3 years. I still go every year, and I would recommend titering every year. I want to know. I want a health checkup on Zaner every year. So I'm still going to go to my annual vet appointment every year, and I'm still going to get his little body all checked over, but I'm titering versus vaccinating, okay? And if the titer came back that he is not immune, then I look at vaccinating. But while he has that immunity, while his little gas tank is full, I'm not vaccinating, okay? I want to also make this point about vaccines. Oftentimes we're asked to provide proof of vaccination for our animals before we take them to a spa, or before we take them to a daycare, or before we take them to a border, or wherever. You guys know the drill. We're asked for proof of vaccination. So what I want to say about this, proof of vaccination simply proves that I have poked my animal with a needle. I'm still blind. I still have no idea how much gas is in this car. I poked him with a needle, and I hoped that vaccination created immunity, but I still don't know. So when we provide proof of vaccination, we are providing proof that I have poked the animal with a needle. Because if Zane was genetically non-responsive to vaccines, I could poke him every day and he is still not going to get the immunity because he's genetically non-responsive to vaccines, meaning he can't get immunity from vaccines. But when I present you with my titer test, which literally shows how much gas is in the tank, that he possesses the immunity that we are trying to vaccinate for, I am showing you that he is immune, which means he cannot contract, he cannot shed the disease. So even if he came in contact with it, because he has the natural immunity, he cannot contract or shed that disease. That's the difference between a vaccination and a titer. Proof of vaccination shows that you were poked with a needle. Titer test shows you got gas in the tank. Okay? And we talked about this already. Our young animals, our baby dogs, our baby cats, we do want to be responsible. We do want to give them every fighting chance that we can to build their own natural immunity. And that's why vaccines are important for the babies. Where a titer is also helpful is if you've rescued an animal who may not be a baby anymore. Maybe they're 6 months, maybe they're 10 months, maybe they're 2 years old. And you don't know their vaccine history, so you have no idea if or when they were vaccinated in the past. And you certainly wouldn't know how much gas they have in the tank. Do a titer test. Do a titer test, and that will tell you, hey, your dog is immune. You don't need a parvo or a hepatitis or a distemper vaccine because they're immune, or rabies even, okay? And we talked about that. So here's what we can do. Because you're probably thinking, well, what the heck? Like, I go every year and I get my vaccines. If you guys, let me know in the comments, are you getting vaccines for your animals every year? Do you go for your annual vet appointment and get a vaccine? And more importantly, has your vet ever talked to you about titers? About saying, hey, let's see how much gas is in the tank before we just blindly fill up the car again, okay? Let me know in the comments whether you're watching live or whether you're watching on a replay. I'm interested to know how many folks are just getting their vaccines, and whether or not their vet is talking to them about titer tests. So, if we need to vaccinate, and as babies we do, right? We still want to vaccinate our babies, but after 4 months, we want to start titering. So they get their first set of vaccines, they get their booster at 4 months, and then we want to start titer testing. So when we do vaccinate, remember I talked about vaccinosis? Vaccinosis is essentially all of the negative side effects that can happen. Yeah, so Catherine is saying my vet only gives about every 2 to 3 years for vaccination. Same thing as every year. It doesn't matter. We're still over-vaccinating. If Mimsy is already immune to the diseases that your vet is trying to vaccinate for, she doesn't need those vaccines. She'd be better to do titer tests. So that's what I'd be asking my vet for. And I'm going to talk about that if your vet goes, titer what? Because I've reached out to many vets, and a lot of them they don't teach this in vet school. They don't teach it. Not in traditional. Lori says, my little Pico is 9 months old, so we'll be having his 1-year checkup soon. Lori, that's when I'd be asking for a titer, because almost guaranteed, depending on your vet, they're going to say, time to vaccinate Pico, and you're going to say, I'd like to titer test. Okay, and if they say, we don't do titer tests, we don't know what you're talking about, or it's going to cost you hundreds of dollars, I'm going to tell you what you can do. But if we do need to vaccinate, because we got a puppy or a kitty, and of course we need to vaccinate them, we can give them anti-vaccinosis. So vaccinosis are the negative side effects associated with vaccines, and that can be that whole list, right? Everything from being lethargic to cancer or death, any of those side effects can happen. That is vaccinosis. And again, vaccinosis only seems to be talked about in the integrative veterinary world. And Laurie says, I've never heard of this test, so good to know. Yes, so Titer Test. This is what we need to ask for. When we get a vaccine, it's a mutated version of the virus made in a lab. That's the same thing for our dogs. It enters the body not in a natural way because it's injected, right? If our dogs were to naturally come in contact with parvo, they would smell it, they would lick it, it would get on their fur. And then the body can naturally fight that off. It's a man-made virus with heavy metals and chemicals and preservatives and a bunch of other nasty stuff, as well as the man-made virus that is then injected into them. So it goes straight to the blood. It doesn't even go through any of their natural defenses to prevent themselves from getting sick. So if we have to get vaccinated, we always recommend then following up with anti-vaccinosis. So what anti-vaccinosis does is it will leave the good medicines in the body, but it will eliminate the side effects, the potential for side effects. And anti-vaccinosis can be given up to a year after a vaccine is administered. So even if you're thinking, oh crap, my dog got their vaccine 4 months ago, it's too late. No, you can do this up to a year after, and it will still help to mitigate those bad side effects, keep the good medicine in the body, and then we're gonna start titering, right? We're always gonna ask for titers. So you can ask your vet. You can ask your vet, well, here's the thing, you guys. Before I opened the store, but I knew I was opening the store, and I was learning a ton about all this kind of stuff that we like to share with you guys to make sure you guys know. I learned about titers, and I went to my vet, my old vet, and I said, I don't want to vaccinate anymore. I want a titer test. And they were very adamant about talking me out of the titer and into vaccines. And they told me the titer test will cost you $300 and your vaccine is only $125 or whatever. And I'm like, but I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for his health. So I don't care if the titer costs 3 times what the vaccine does. If it's going to keep him healthy, that's my motive, not the money. But anyways, I now know that the reason that titer test at my old vet cost so much is because they don't do it in-house. They had to send it out to an external lab, so of course there's an additional cost for that. I have a new vet, and my new vet does do titers, and they do them in-house. They don't do rabies in-house, but that's okay. I'll send it away, and so every 3 years I'm gonna pay more for my titer because it has to get sent away, and that's okay. If you go to your vet, and your vet doesn't do titers, doesn't know what titers is, tries to talk you out of a titer, stand your ground. Know how much gas is in your tank before you try to fill that car again, okay? So if your animal already has immunity, you will not know that without a titer test. So if your vet doesn't do titers, Dr. John Robb in Connecticut does. Dr. John Robb is a veterinarian in Connecticut, in the States, who has been lobbying the US government since the 70s that we are over vaccinating the animals. And he has been fighting this in the highest courts. I got a video I'm gonna share into the comments, you guys, and he talks about the Hippocratic oath that he took as a veterinarian is to save the lives of animals. And legally, when they're requiring vaccines, he could potentially kill the animal. And he said to this court, this is what you want me to do? You want me to kill the animal instead of save the animal? And they said, that's what the vaccines are for. So he's been fighting this, you guys, since the 70s. Dawn says it's unfortunate that most pet services won't recognize the test as vaccinated. I agree, but the only way that we're gonna make this change, Dawn, is the more people out there requesting titers and the more people out there requesting services for our animals to accept titers. That's the only way we're gonna make change. Unfortunately, Canada is a little bit behind. In the States, Tons of daycares accept Titers, tons of boarding kennels, tons of pet services, tons of sorry, Lori says, I love the analogy with the gas tank, makes it easier to understand. Yes, perfect. And so that's what we want to make sure. We want to know if that tank is full or empty. And if it's full, we don't put no gas in it. None. Even if it's half, the immunity exists. But we don't know that without a titer. So Dr. John Robb, you guys, I'm going to drop his website in. Actually, I'm going to put it in the comments of this as well. I'm going to put his website, which is to protect the pets. Okay? That's his project, protect the pets. He has got all of the science there for you. He has also got all of the steps that if your vet will not perform a titer test, he will. So it's got all of the steps that you would then take to your vet. Basically, you're going to get a blood draw from your vet and you're going to ship it to Dr. John Robb, and then he is going to send you back a detailed, this is what he's dedicated his life to, you guys. He knows this stuff inside and out. And he will send you a detailed report back through email to tell you how much gas you got in that tank, how immune your animal is, if they have immunity, if they require vaccines. In some instances, when they do a titer test, and let's say they're doing the titer for parvo, distemper, and hepatitis. In Canada, those all come as one vaccine. And your titer could come back that your dog is immune to parvo and immune to hep, but not to distemper. We should not. The only option we're going to have here then is to administer a vaccine that has all three. So we're trying to get more gas in that full gas tank. This is another thing, that the more pet parents that know, the more pet parents that ask for these kinds of things, the more likely it is that our vets will start to have individual vaccines. So if Zane's titer came back that he's immune for parvo and immune for distemper, but not for hepatitis, I should be able to just get a hepatitis vaccine. I don't want to vaccinate for the other two because that tank is full, okay? Dr. John Robb's information will tell you all of that. So if your vet doesn't do titers, if your vet won't do titers, doesn't know what titers is, tells you it's a ridiculous amount, I believe for the core vaccines, I'd have to look at this again, it was $57 through Dr. John Robb. US, you are still going to pay for a blood draw. You are still going to pay to ship it to the States because we're in Canada. But he does it for 57 US, or he did. And I think rabies is 75. I'd have to go back and check. Here's the whole thing. I don't care if I have to pay for the blood draw and if I have to pay for shipping and if I then have to pay $70 Canadian to get this done. I'm doing it for Zane's health, and so then money becomes no object. I will find the ways, I will take the loans, I will do whatever I have to do to make sure that I keep him safe and protected, because it's my job as his guardian to look out for his health. He doesn't make these decisions, I do, okay? So I'm gonna put this information, I'm gonna put Dr. John Robb's website in the text of our video here today. And I'm going to share a video. It is on his website. You'll see it if you go to his website. But I'm going to share that in the comments because it was really moving to see the fight that he has, and other, the courts are laughing at him because we've never heard this stuff before. So they don't want to listen to the science. He's got the science to back this, that animals essentially at the age of 4 months old when they are vaccinated for life. For life, you guys. And then we go back and we vaccinate every year because the guys who made the vaccine said, well, that's what you should do. You should vaccinate every year. But it's money in their pocket, right? And it's health. The cost is health of our animals. So if you guys have questions, by all means, let us know. I've been titering Zane for 3 years now. I did vaccinate before I knew, and again, this is why we share with you guys, because we want to make sure that you know so that you're not making the same mistakes that we have made. But if you have questions, we're always here. We are here till 6 o'clock tonight. Lori says, I can't wait to share this amazing video with all my pet owner friends. Awesome, Lori. Thank you so much. The more that know, the more likely it is that we will make change. You guys, we are putting some stuff together on our website. It's going to be the House of Paws Resource Center. It's going to have this kind of information so that it's easily accessible for all of you. That's coming soon. We're just kind of finalizing the details, and it's going to be a wealth of information for all pet parents who are looking to do the best for their furry guys. Okay, so here till 6 o'clock tonight. We're here 11 till 6 tomorrow. We're closed on Sunday. Monday is Valentine's Day, you guys. And if you haven't already, we've got our pink pack bandanas available for Anti-Bullying Day. Zaner and Rue have been wearing them. I forgot to put Zaner's on today. February 23rd is Anti-Bullying Day, and we've got the bully. The only bully we like is a bully that they can chew, as well as their pink bandana, so that the furry guys can show their support for anti-bullying. Thank you so much, you guys, for spending some time with us this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in store or online. Bye.